everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the iConis podcast. As usual, I'm here with my side, the one and only Mr.
Rod C. Ladies and gentlemen, good day, good day.
Righto.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah, okay, we good. A little bit tired today. I'm a little bit tired today. I went out to, by the time this comes out, I was at like a wedding reception last night. A lot of fun. But back to business. So first and foremost, I'm your host, Barry 3D. I'm here with Mr. Rod C. And this is the iConis podcast. And on that note, we are here to bring you another fun episode today that hopefully you will all enjoy. We are in our third year of doing this podcast. This is exciting. Love it. Thank you for being there. And for those who've just come on, go back, check out the rest of the stuff we've done. We got a lot. We got stuff on our community tab. We got older videos. We got unboxing videos. And we got some interviews with Gail Simone. Go and check that out. An interview with Salman Adrowski. Go and check that one out. He's the cover artist for X23 and a writer also on top of that. He has a lot of influence with Captain Canuck. So really great, insightful. Go and check that out. As usual, we're going to make the round tables and, manners make it the man. So we're going to do that and get that out the way. If you want to see all the stuff we talk about and you want to go and pick it up from a comic book store, there's two comic book stores. I'll even say three. There's three comic book stores that we're down with right now. So first of all, you got to check out Wow Comics out in Kitchener. Tell Wes and the guys we said hi. If you're out in Cambridge, go The Hero's Tale. New comic book store out in Cambridge. Tell Andrew and the rest of the guys we said hi from the iConis podcast. And for our friends out in Montreal, you can always check out Check Swings on the South Shore. Tell Trevor and the rest of the guys we said hi. A lot of fun. You can't miss out. Start your collection. Build it up right. Of course, we're going now with a friend of the show, Miss Brandy Ford. She's got her magazine, The Writer and the Wit, comes out every month. And she has her radio show on 4680q.com. 3 times a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. It's at 2:00, and on Saturdays it's at noon. Can't miss it. Also, if you want to see what I'm going to be at, I do comedy all over the time, all over the place. And you can check it out at barry3d.com. That is my website. You can always see where I'm going to be at. And also, updates on this show. And when I'm also with my group that I'm part of, that's a Touch of Gray Matter. That's myself, Dave Sokolowski, and Zolf Ali. Come and check us out. We always got something going on that's really a lot of fun. Ooh, on that note, Rod, where can we find you?
You can find me on the World Wide Web, as I always say. You can find me on the world of Instagram. You can find me at Mr. Rod C, MRRODC. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/DJ Rod C. You can find me in the world of TikTok. You can find me there with DJ Rod C1. That's DJ Rod C1. Find me anywhere you can. Hail me up. Say you shout me out and just say, hey, I saw you on iConis. Beautiful. Give me a hail back. Let's go.
Absolutely. And on top of that, we are also a part of the Subculture Podcast Network. It's our podcast along with a few others. Check those ones out along with ours. Help us all grow. And remember, like, subscribe, and share. We need the numbers. Help us. That's your mission. Now, we mentioned our favorite comic book stores, and there's still more out there. We want to see where your favorite comic book store is out. So give us a plug. Let us know where they out. Send us some pictures. We'll check those out for sure. We got to maybe get an email address. And if not, just tag us on social media, right? We're all over there. And you can see our links with all that. Also, if you want to do a podcast, like we're doing a podcast, we use Podbean. So if you want to find our show, it's literally like iconis.podbean.com. That's our show. You can make yours also. And if you're going to do that, you're going to need a good graphic artist, no matter where you are in the world. You can always reach out to them. And that's who are we talking about, Rod?
J Bird Digital Art.
J Bird Digital Arts, Mr. Jason Reese.
Let's go.
Give him a shout. Let him know you heard about him on the iConis podcast. And he will give you a discount, or let him know you heard about him on the iConis podcast, and he will give you a discount. I told you I'm a little bit tired today. He will give you a discount on the work. I apologize. I went out. That is, it's a reception. I got on the dance floor. I had delusions of grandeur. I became hit the dance floor one more time. People, you don't understand what I did on that dance floor. My body doesn't understand it. My smartwatch was like, "What are you doing? Your heart rate is going up. Hold up now."
Did you put a requisition for that? That's your brain side. No one put a requisition. Default. Yeah, that's what
right?
happened.
Oh, the mind is young. The body is saying, hold up now, son. Okay. So
Come
on
on, son.
that, hold up, son. On today's to afternoons, tonight, whenever you listen to this podcast or watch it, we are talking about the icon is on the iConis podcast is
Shogun Warriors.
Shogun Warriors. Now, why Shogun Warriors and which one are we talking about? We're gonna get straight to it, right? Shogun Warriors had a whole toy line, but we're talking about Shogun Warriors by Marvel Comics that came out in 1979 and ran to 1980. So, first appearance, first issue came out in July of 1979. It ran
Oh no,
for 20
February.
issues.
February.
Oh, February.
Yeah, February
My
1979.
bad. My bad. Thank you. See, that's why it's always good to have someone here a little bit smarter than you. So
I
February.
know what you're looking at. Yep.
Yeah, February of 1979 up to 1980. It ran 20 issues. There was no annuals, and they had one crossover, believe it or not. And
Yeah.
they're in the Marvel universe. Who teamed up with them? Well, we'll get into that. Yeah, it was interesting. So the history of the Shogun Warriors, it's, as a young kid, I saw this. So everyone always hears me talk about Micronauts, but at the same time, I pretty much bought Micronauts. Later on, I saw the Shogun Warriors. It was giant robots. I'm in. If you grew up with Ultraman, okay. If you watch Godzilla with Jet Jaguar, that was in there. I'm in.
Yep.
You giant robot, okay. Godzilla, I'm in. It wasn't, twist my rubber arm, and that's why I picked this up. So, the whole process of this is like the invincible guardians of world freedom. That's the Shogun Warriors. Now it had some writers. So the writers behind this was Doug Monick and Stephen Grant. And it had pencilers on there that was Herb Trimpe. I know I'm bad with the names. And Mike Vosberg.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got so the creators behind this was Doug Monick,
Steven.
Right? And then it had Herb Trimpe. So that's what I'm seeing here as the creators. Do you have another one, or am I missing my information here?
Oh no. Well, let's do Stephen Grant as well. Well, as the writers.
Oh, okay, it's great. Yes.
Yeah. No, but you're right. Created by Doug and Herb. Doug and Herb were the created. My apologies. You are absolutely correct.
The last time I heard Doug and Herbie together, it was the Showstopper. 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes. Dougie Fresh, you're on. Chuck on. Chuck on. Herb the Love Bug. Okay, I'm old school. Yeah, deep cut. You like that one, didn't you?
Very nice. Good. Touche. Point.
Thank you. So getting back to it, so a whole lot of times is what Marvel was doing. Marvel at the time, especially in the 70s, 80s, like late 70s, early 80s, they would turn around and acquire a lot of license and then put those into books. So they did that with Micronauts. They did that with Man from Atlantis, which we covered. They did that with Logan's Run. They did that. Let's see. I would say Machine Man to a certain degree because they had 2001 Space Odyssey, which, right? Of course, Godzilla. So Marvel would just say, we'll take the license on all these properties, all these IPs, and we're going to turn them into something. So Shogun Warriors originally started off as a toy line. And they turned around and said, well, we're going to take these, we're going to put a story to it and see how it goes. So one of the toy line, there was multiple giant robots that were out there, a part of this toy line. I think by Poppy Toys. Mattel got the license for these toys. So that was over in Japan, and Mattel got the license for these and brought them over to North American soils, with the name, put them out, and they kind of merged them with the Godzilla toy. So if you bought the big giant Godzilla toy back in the day, you would have the Shogun Warriors to fight them. And, we all know Godzilla is towering over buildings and the Shogun Warriors are the same height. So you had them to battle him, and that was it. But there was really no storyline. And even during the run of the Godzilla comic book by Marvel and Shogun Warriors, they never crisscrossed.
Right.
They never met up. Right. The one who came closest to them was Red Ronin through a Marvel comic, and then Avengers, who was another giant robot that was created here and ties with Jimmy Woo from WandaVision. Because Jimmy Woo had a big presence in the comic book of Godzilla, but they never crisscrossed. at all, which I thought was a missed opportunity. I couldn't understand why they didn't do that. I'd have to do more research. And Red Ronin was never a Shogun warrior. So on the toy line, you had like the major, like the Super Five or Five, something like that along those lines. And it had the cartoons. So you had the toys, you had the Japanese cartoons of Raiden, Vanguard Ace, Umbatra V, and those were the main ones. And they had their own storylines all in there. Japanese animated. You could still find some of these here on YouTube for people that are watching on YouTube. You could find them here, and some are very hard to find, but they're out there, full out series, fleshed out. Then they started making the toy line, and they added more to the toy line. So Grandizer Z was part of the toy line, right? Sorry, Mangizer is it? Mangizer Z was part of the toy line, and Grandizer was part of the toy line. So Grandizer, Goldorak, they put them all part of the toy line. This giant robot, they're all die. The smaller ones were die cast metal, a little bit posable, and that's how it spun off. They turned around and said, "Hey, we're going to take some of them, maybe the more popular ones, form them as a team, and that's your Shogun Warriors." So on the team in the comic book from Marvel, you had Raiden, Vanguard Ace, and Combatra. We're off to start. Now, here's where a lot of elements to me merged. What it was is the Earth, beginning of time. The Earth has been populated. Nobody's there. It started maybe some dinosaurs. It's new in the universe. And then from outer space comes a spaceship, lands with this evil aliens that say, this is a good place for us to start doing some experiments and taking the resources and making a stronghold on here.
Let's pitch camp right here. This looks like a nice place. Let's pitch camp. Let's pitch camp here. That's what he's saying.
Right.
Basically.
Right. Like the Lords of Darkness. Like that's what we're doing. But then the Lords of Light. Demon dogs. I know. It's Lords of Light. I hear it all the time in Thunder and the Barbarian, which we did cover. Plug. They come in and they show up after. I know you're dying. They come in, they show up after, and they land. It's like, no, we can't let this happen. We're going to fight because we're the Lords of Light. We can't let evil prevail. And they got into a war back and forth on Earth. And what they did, the Lords of Light, was they were able to take, I think, the Mercons and capture them inside of a volcano and put them in suspended animation.
Right.
And then they went back, the Lords of Light went back to outer space, and they left some of their ancestors here who looked human, but they're not human. And they formed Sanctuary. And Sanctuary looked like a giant tank, an cross, the Egyptian cross, right? If you picture it. But it's just lying down flat, and it's a huge building, and they had super science and a head, and they made the Shogun Warriors, the robots I'm talking. The robots needed pilots. So I'm not sure if they were long-lived, this race, or how they went about it. Not immortal, but could be long-lived, maybe immortal, but still could succumb to damage or it gets damages later on.
Mm-hmm.
If they got like extremely, they weren't immune. They can still take, be shot. They can still be stabbed and punched and whatever. They just were long-lived.
Long-lived.
Exactly. And they would turn around and they would keep an eye out, and they're like, okay, we got to keep an eye on mankind. We got to make sure that those evil forces, the Lords of Darkness, don't wake up. Keep an eye on a volcano. We're good. Everyone's good. We're just here as guardians. We're just a couple of people, and they age slowly, but they're scientists. So I said they made the robots from way back then. They never had pilots, never had no reason to use it until the volcano erupted, waking up said bad guys. Suspended animation, because that's where they're trapped. They were trapped in the volcano, suspended animation. It woke them up. Okay. Let's put a pause here for half a second. Volcano. Bad guys in it. Suspended animation. Volcano erupts. Bad guys wake up. Where have I heard this storyline before?
Reformers. All that meets the eye.
Thank you. Transformers.
Did I say that out
Transformers.
loud?
Transformers. The Transformer cartoon didn't start till like later on, like the Transformer cartoon for I don't even know offhand, but it definitely wasn't in 1979.
Hmm. Interesting.
Come on, come on, son. Come
Come
on,
on,
son.
son.
Come
You
on,
use some
son.
cold notes from someplace? We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that.
I'll leave it at that. I had to laugh when I saw already read that. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay.
100%. It was too similar. Too similar. Too similar indeed. Yeah, I saw that, and as you mentioned that, it does like say, you're right. We have seen that before, but it's great. Hey, the lords of the followers of light, or long live, and as Barry's gonna say, they basically, was shaken out of suspended animation. I don't know if someone, got shook and fell into a beam of light and was able to regenerate into an up-to-date human, but we won't get into that. Jokingly, no, doubt that. But the great thing about it is that you now have the followers, those who are stay behind, who basically to defend and be basically watchers to make sure everything is okay in the time being. You find out, hey, we need people to they come out of suspended animation. We now realizing, oh snap, we need to be able to defend ourselves and defend this world. Thank God we made robots back in the days. We've been smart and we kept updating as technology moved ahead. Although we were still fans. The nice thing, I'll put that as a note. Barry didn't get a chance to say that, but I know he'll say it later. But I'll say it now. The great thing about this, the followers of light, is again from another planet. From another galaxy, another world. So they're futuristic, George Jetson. They have the skills, they have the technology, they can build them. So they are futuristic, living in an old time. Again, Transformers. We won't make the connection anymore. Or shall we? I wonder.
It's funny. That's what I said. Like, I was looking at that and I'm like, huh. And once again, Transformers was, once again, Marvel turned around and got Transformers, brought them in and saying, okay, this is what we're doing. And someone must have said, okay, I have an idea. Didn't we do this already? Don't worry about it. This one's gonna be more popular. No one's gonna remember that one. So this is what it comes down to. So like, here's it. Stan Lee approached Doug, who at the time was associated with Marvel's darker stories, due to his work on Werewolf by Night, Deathlock, which we covered, and partly influenced by children's positive reflection, for the simple ways he was given. So this was cool. He had a vision about it. He wanted to bring it about. Stan Lee got the license for it, got the toys for it. They got the more popular ones, and said, "Let's go." And then he got his partner, and they said, "Well, we worked on Godzilla, King of all monsters," and it's kind of, helped bring that all together, for them. And I think, even Godzilla ran like 24 issues. So it was good. It was popular at the time. Godzilla had a lot more crossovers. For Godzilla, you saw a lot more of S.H.I.E.L.D. because they were trying to contain Godzilla, and a lot more crossovers because of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So you had all the members of S.H.I.E.L.D., from Nick to the rest of the Howling Commandos that are still alive in the future, to some of the new members, along with Jimmy Woo. Avengers show up. And then the last issue with Godzilla, everyone shows up. You got the Avengers, you got the Champions, you got the Defenders. So you had some heavy hitters trying to fight him off in that last issue, along with S.H.I.E.L.D. That was cool, but we never got the Shogun Warriors. And to me, the Shogun Warriors should have shown up because it was very much like, Sentai, the whole Power Ranger thing that was been going on in Japan for years. Because Let's keep in mind, Power Rangers only came to North American soil with that first team that had, the Green Ranger, was played by Jason David Frank. So by Tommy, Jason the Red Ranger, Trini the Yellow Ranger, so forth. That team, that's the team that came out, right? With Billy, Zach, I can't remember the Pink Ranger's name right now. Amy Jo Johnson's the one who plays her, but that was the original team we got. Keep in mind that Power Rangers existed in Japan 10 years prior, easy, if not more,
Yep.
before we got it. So the team we got here of Power Rangers was like version number 10 of Power Rangers. Like, it always is a different team as we go on and on and on. So in Japan, they had this. We weren't even exposed to it. Not even an inkling on the radar. They were watching Power Rangers going, go, go, Power Rangers. And we were watching stuff like Thunder the Barbarian, Speed Buggy, Hanna-Barbera, anything along those lines from the Flintstones. We weren't getting those. And when Godzilla came about, it kind of opened the gateway. So that was cool to see it.
Yep.
So Stan was very quick to turn around and bring those together, worked on that deal. And of course, it had the toy tie-in. So the toys came over from Mattel. So Mattel had the comic book. They got, they had Marvel doing the comic book. They had the toys, the die-cast ones. They got the giant plastic ones. They put it all together and they kind of put it out. But it was never any storyline that kind of crisscrossed with them. The only thing they never really did was release the original Japanese cartoons. I don't think there was a market for it back then. Now, I think there is. So that is the whole backstory of Shogun Warriors IP toy comic book behind the scenes, how we see it. But now, story-wise, as I said, they turned around and they said these Lords of Light were looking to get 3 pilots. And they watched Mankind all the time to say, okay, well, who's going to be worthy? Now, keep in mind, they were there before dinosaurs. They were there, or just the beginning of dinosaurs. So you remember, dinosaurs, man, and no conspiracy theories. Dinosaurs, man, and everything else on top of that. Here we go. So they've been there that whole time, awake, watching. Okay, now they finally wake up. So that means they probably had people who could have piloted these things in the past. Can you imagine if the Shogun Warriors had to come to fruition or be activated in feudal Japan during that time, or medieval times, right?
Talk about it.
Arthur, what's that? It's a monster I've never seen. I can't do a British accent. So it came about modern times, right? But I mean, they were there. The robots were built. This is what they've established on that. Their base was never found out. It's in the Far East, hidden in some mountains, covered up, but it's a big white building. No one ever seen it. When man was still wondering about a porta potty, they had indoor plumbing.
But also true. Also true.
So we get to present day. When I say present day, 1979, and we realize, okay, as I said, the Lords of Dark came out there and they got woken up out of the volcano, and the first thing they want to do is tap into what they call the blood of the earth, which is lava. And they're using that because they use a mixture of science and sorcery to to build up their monsters. Or as Vulture would call them, Robo Beast. Okay, try to build up their monsters. Like, you see what all's happening here, and take over the world. That's how they're going to do it. It's very Power Ranger-esque. Voltron is okay. We have all those lines all there.
100%.
Like, well, we've been watching 3 people. So the Lords of Light, we've been watching 3 people who could be the pilots. Quick, teleport them in, literally. So you got, yeah. Okay. So you got the 3 people. So you got Genji. She's a Japanese pilot, military pilot. She's landing a military plane at the base. The landing gear is down and everything. They teleport her away with the plane. Then you got Richard. I think it's Richard. He's a stuntman.
Richard Carson. Stuntman.
Richard Carson. He's a stuntman. He's in mid-jump with a car, like pulling an Evil Knievel moment, right, for a movie. They didn't just teleport him. They teleported the car. And then you got Elongo, right? So he's the black guy on the team. He's in a submersible. He's a marine biologist. He's down in a submersible with a team on a boat that's got the tube all down on a submersible. What? Gone. They all just come out. And he comes out like, what's going on? Right? And they establish the ages of all 3 of these pilots. So, for example, I know I'm gonna mess this up, but I believe Richard was 22, Alongo was 24, and Genji could have been a little bit older, maybe 28.
I think it was in the reverse. Alongo was the eldest.
Okay.
I think it was the eldest of it, and it kind of like worked itself down.
All right.
Thank you. But still,
right. But they're all in they're 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
From early to mid 20s, and they all get zapped in there mid whatever they're doing. Let's keep that in mind that things should come out a little bit more because of this. So they get there, they meet what we call him the professor. He's the main guy. I'll just say, there's a
Yeah.
whole cast. I'll call him the professor for now. And he looks like a professor. He's got the glasses. He's older, bald, a white mustache, a white lab coat. And he's like, hey, this is what's been happening. Before you say anything, we can answer your questions. We beamed you here. And Richard Carson was like, wait a minute, you beamed us here? Okay, before we start protesting, let's see what you got to say. Let's listen to your story because you have this technology. We might not want to mess with you. So they turned around, they listened to the story, it explained the whole backstory of how they came to Earth, what they're doing, they're in sanctuary, yada, yada, yada. Then they give them a 20-minute crash course how to function in this robot with simulations. 20 minutes. Throw them in costumes, throw them into the giant robot. And the first one we see is Raydeen, who, okay, all right. 20 minutes because there's a giant monster attacking and they need to send Raydeen over there. So they teleport Raydeen in with 20 minutes of training and kind of figure it out. You got
yeah,
this.
y'all smart. Y'all smart. Listen, you got Orson, you handling with underwater submachines, yeah. And you fly pennies. You a pilot, experiment pilot. You can figure out buttons. You know how not to crash cars. We can work it out. We'll just put the tree in one vehicle, call it robot, and just make sure you hit that red button. What? Touch everything. Put that red button.
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you guys later. What the what?
Loses. So they get there on the battlefield. They're fighting out that first monster, and it doesn't go. They got pretty much a stalemate because once again, you only had 20 minutes of training how to function as giant robot. All three of you were in there, and each person has a station. One person's controlling the body, one is doing weapons, one is doing defense, right? And Raydeen is, if you see it, he's got he looks like a samurai warrior, right? He's got that samurai warrior mixed Egyptian kind of style. Cool looking robot. I ain't gonna lie. I bought the puzzle of Raydeen years ago, and I put the puzzle together and I put it up in a frame. Still at my parents' house out there now. I got to get a picture of that and put it up. But yes, that was my robot, and I have friends that had the stuff, those toys back then. So that's what they get into. They get into their first fight, stalemate. Right, hold them off. He's not defeated. They beam him back to base. They're like, hey man, we were outnumbered. These guys, we couldn't figure out how to function. I wanted to go left. One person wanted to go right. One person wanted to throw a punch. It just wasn't working out. Right. And the Lords of Light go, yeah, we understand. So here's the other two robots, Vanguard Ace and Compatra. You couldn't give us the other two right away? Okay. So then, Genji takes Compatra. Ilongo takes Vanguard Ace. Carlson gets to stay with Raydeen. Now, Raydeen seems as the central figure of the robots out of the three. Vanguard Ace in the cartoon can fly in outer space, can fly underwater. Because he can go underwater, this is why Ilongo gets him. Combatra, she's more of an aerial robot. The difference is that Raydeen can turn into what he called like the Screaming Hawk or whatever. The body turns into a supersonic jet. Vanguard Ace, that turns into like almost a plane but goes underwater. Combatra is the interesting one. Combatra can split into 5 different components. Very, at the time, Aloesque, Power Rangers, Voltron, right? Where one person's, you got a team of 5, and each person controls something, and it turns into something else. So the feet form the tank, the legs formed one type of plane, like a bomber. The torso was, another machine, like flying machine, and then the head was like a fighter jet, which was cool. Right now, is there a team of 5? No, it's just Genji. But if one of the other guys wanted to jump in there, they can sit in there. If not, it had its individual robots that would pilot it all together. So you had a robot inside of a robot for Combatra. Wow, we're going down the rabbit hole with this one. Woo! So, they get in there and they meet Murkon, who is the main bad guy for them. He's their Cobra commander throughout this series that's trying to overthrow them, defeat them, get rid of the Lords of Light, call for reinforcements from outer space. and that's how it is. Now, some of the monsters we see, which is cool, are monsters that they have to fight that are from their anime series. So one that stands out is Cerberus, which is a purple like machine, but it can always reconfigure all its components to keep on fighting. And the other one, I can't remember the name of it, but it looks like a giant hand, just a hand, but it's all scales, green skin, and each fingertip is a dragon's face. Like that's it, but that's from the Raideen anime series. And it can breathe fire, it has laser eyes, and it flies. This giant fist of a monster, but that's what it was. Hey, the 70s and 80s was a special time, yo. And Combatra had to deal with that. So this is where the storylines are going. And I mean, it wasn't anything overly deep, but it was very entertaining to my opinion. Ron, what do you think about Shogun Warriors?
So Shogun Warriors is like you said, they were a very good introduction of man rope. I mean, what's the best way of thinking it? Man operated robots. So
Yes.
they couldn't do, of course, anything without, having that, that intertwined type of human touch, actuality of, having their own free will of doing things. So it's great because you start to see the different personalities coming out through the different characters. I mean, each person and their robots and what they can do. So like you're saying, I believe it's in the third issue, they're fighting, or towards the end or the middle of the second issue, they're fighting basically the lords of darkness, writing their evil monsters, and basically realizing that one was the more of a lava type of monster, and Richard Carson, his one again isn't really more built for combating the elements in that particular regard. Lyonga Savage, his one, Dangara Ace, he's more for battling with water. So realizing, okay, we should swap, our enemies, and who I'm battling, you take this over. Great idea. Yeah. The evil one didn't give you a chance to change positions, and they start fighting, off center. So it was good in seeing that we're already established understanding that each robot has a specific nuance, have a specific skill, and that they already recognize that, okay, if your main go-to is bottling water and elements, and this is fire and water, you guys should fight. So it was good I was able to pull that out so you can start to see that Shogun Warriors were very dynamic and basically have its own type of personality where people, the readers can definitely follow through. Oh, I like this particular robot, this particular adventurer because of XYZ. Yeah, as you said earlier, in regards to, connecting with Marvel, it would have been nice to have some type of connection, but you see that they later on they got some connection with Shield and Reed Richards and Fantastic Four and the back building and everything in that regard. But it would definitely have been nice to see it more often. But we'll come back to that after these commercial breaks. Now back from these commercial breaks, Barry. I don't know. I just felt like trying to put a plug in there. We got a sponsor. Just in case we got a sponsor. We're inserting it. Sponsors, just letting you know. Shameless plug.
Open for it. Channel's always growing. Love it. Plug. So yeah, you're right. So this came into a lot of stuff. So I mean, it opened it up. I think the tie-ins could have been a little bit better. The crossovers could have been a little bit better. Unfortunately, due to low sales, the series wrapped up at 20 issues, so they had to wrap everything up. So that's it. So the Followers of Darkness, that's what they're called. The Followers of Darkness. I did go with this. And at one point, you think Murkon dies, but of course, no one ever dies in Marvel. He lives. He reaches out to the other aliens, and you find out more about where they came from. How Murkon, the Followers of the Dark, manipulated the other peace-loving aliens into something. So when we're getting near the end of the series, not even so. At one point in the series, the Shogun Warriors get called out to fight these monsters, and they're doing their best. They're fighting these monsters. At the same time, a figure beams into the base sanctuary. So In Sanctuary, what would happen is, in general, the Shogun Warriors, so the three pilots would have these pendants on a gold chain, gold pendant, and this pendant would use as communication device. It would use as a teleportation like beacon, so it would glow when they're being summoned. They can talk to each other, and then they would use it to teleport. They can just press it and be teleported back to the base. During part of the storyline, they're all different places. So they had to go home at one point because they were at Sanctuary for a while and they had to go back to their normal life. So let me jump back to this point. At one point, it's like, hey, we got to go home. We've been here now. Like, you got to figure it's like 4 or 5 issues. They've been there training, learning, fighting. You guys here, the Lords of Light kind of messed with us. You took
Yes.
us away mid
In the
whatever,
middle of something? Yeah.
the middle of something. We got to tie that up. And Genji was the more responsible one because she was saying that, hey, I was flying a fighter plane for the Japanese government and I just disappeared. You have to let me go
Yeah.
home and settle this. And they're like, but you got to
Yeah.
keep it a secret. You can't talk about what happened, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one who has it the easiest, let's go with that. Richard Carson. He's a stuntman.
Mhm.
He gets back. I think it's like issue 7 or 8. He gets beamed back. He goes to his beach house. His girlfriend is there. And at the time, it's all groovy, man. Hey, what's happening? She's walking around in a bikini. She said, oh my gosh, what happened to you? You disappeared. Everyone on the set's worried about you. We didn't understand what happened. Oh, don't worry about it, babe. It's really kind of that machoism that's there. And he gives a very loose explanation. Now, even though you're not supposed to say anything, he's the first one to open his mouth saying, well, I was called on by powers to be to help out save mankind. You're like, what? And of course, he during his explanation of this, and she's kind of saying, okay, you're just pulling my leg. You could have come up with an excuse. People are worried about you. Cerberus shows up off the shoreline, and then he hits this pendant, and people at Sanctuary teleport in Radine to the beach. She's like, you were serious? Come on, babe. Let me get on this motorcycle. And he drives the motorcycle off a cliff, jumps in the air, and then hits it, and he gets it caught in a beam, and the beam pulls him into Radine. Very like it's if you watch Ray Dean, the anime cartoon,
Mhm.
that's what happens. That's what happens. Is the pilot
Oh,
is
man.
on a motorcycle and he always drives off a cliff and he gets pulled in, him and the motorcycle. With Richard, he's like, oh, it doesn't matter. The motorcycle gets destroyed. So they took their influences so that his story was easy to convince because now his girlfriend's going to help him convince the producers about his disappearance. And then it's like, well, you just kind of took off, man. We didn't know. Like, we even the car was gone. Like, what kind of stunt was that? So he smoothed it over with his manager and all that. Easy. Alongo gets back, has to go and see his girlfriend at the marine biologist base where he's working, and he
Mhm.
had explained to her, it's like, look, this is kind of what happened to me. I can't talk much about it. I'm okay, and he kind of gets back to business because he's like a higher up in that organization where he works. He doesn't really have to answer to anybody. He just has to smooth it
Right.
over with his significant other. Genji, on the other hand, she's a military pilot flying a Japanese fighter plane for the Japanese government, and the plane disappears. And she's trying to tell them, hey, I'm back, I'm fine. And we chalk it up to an alien abduction kind of thing. People are like, we don't believe in aliens. Well, here I am. So now she's got the
Oops.
Japanese government investigating her
Mhm.
because, and she came back with the plane. Don't get it wrong. She got teleported back with the plane. So they get their plane back. But now she has to explain why she was gone for weeks. Okay. She's got to explain it to, I guess her commanding officer, who was also a love interest for her,
Mhm.
and keep, but not mention anything about the Shogun Warriors because how do you? It's like a secret identity. You don't want the world to know that you have access to this advanced technology because, they wouldn't be able to handle it or be exploited. So they're trying to do the right thing. And then, of course, Genji took the hardest punishments. She lost her pilot's license. She was under investigation by the Japanese government. She was really being raked through the coals.
Mhm.
Yeah. Here's my point about this. I feel that if you're the Lords of Light and it's an emergency that's about to happen, and you've been monitoring who could be your future pilot, you should not snatch them mid job. If you could teleport someone from half a world away, You could have waited till she landed the plane and sent her a holographic message saying, "You have been summoned." Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I understand. I understand the realism of it, but then they're gonna make it like, well, you know what? The enemy's here right now. The followers of dark is here. We need to activate those sleeper cells now. But activate them now.
5
Okay.
minutes, man. 5 minutes. Because it's not you're
Oh,
giving them 3 days of training. You literally gave them 20 minutes of training. You get so fine, give them 15.
well, that will
Five
cut in. I'm
minutes.
about to say that will cut into they'll cut into their training. And what if that last 5 minutes of training is how they know how to do power fist? They didn't learn that.
Let
Mm-mm-mm.
her land the plane. Snatch her when she's in the toilet. Then she can come back and say, "Hey, I was abducted by some enemies and I made an escape." They took her and they didn't even give her an explanation to be an out to get away. They understand how the world works. You figure they would have given her a better cover story as of, "Hey, thanks for flying our and using our giant robot. Leave the robot here, go home, and we'll call you when we need you." Yeah, but what about my? Don't worry about it. You take care. You got this. That is the worst piece of management I've ever seen.
Like I said on our last one about yeah, sometimes the writing just want to get to the point, and they're just gonna like they'll accept it. It'll make sense later on, but they never circle back to make it sense later on. Yeah, I shake my head. That was good. That wasn't good. But I'll definitely say, because you know where we're going to go, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get to a point where we're going to make our own little fan cast and guarantee the writing will be better. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
I'm just
Absolutely.
saying.
Absolutely. So here's a couple more points before we hit there. Is
Mm-hmm.
well, that's what they had to deal with. So I understand that they're putting some pressure on the characters. They're putting points of conflict in there, which is really good. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they gave themselves a way out. I don't care if you write a point of conflict for a character, make sure you have a way out that's logical for that character so we can still go along that journey, be it if it's a good result or a bad result. And I think that was always up in the air because with her colleagues, with Richard and Alongo, they were cool. Hers, every 2 seconds, how's it going? Government's still investigating me. I got to be careful when I come out here. Oh, geez, I
Mm-hmm.
got teleported again. They would think I'm a spy. Like they think she's a spy against their own government, and she's still going back home. Okay. So when things are getting to a head now, they fought on Earth, they fought on land, sea, air, and outer space. Once again, as I was saying, at one point they got called on a mission fighting all these monsters, right? Merklon was able to get one of its agents inside Sanctuary. So he breached their defenses, human-sized person, not a giant robot. And they
Mm-hmm.
killed off everybody in Sanctuary, destroyed Sanctuary. The robots, all the Shogun Warriors get back to Sanctuary and see it all in ruins. All their, the people that were taking care of the robots, repairing the damage, everything's destroyed. They got no choice now to take these robots and hide them themselves. So each person got a robot and hid it close to where they lived. So Richard hid his, off the beach somewhere, which is very reminiscent of the cartoon. Vanguard Ace put his underwater in a grotto
Mm-hmm.
that he would access, with his scuba gear. All right, makes sense. And Combatra found an abandoned building, and she had to leave Japan. She had to leave Japan because her life was it was just her life was done on over. So she
Right.
found a place in the city, an abandoned building that was supposed to be torn down for construction, demolition, and dug down underneath that inside of an abandoned building, and that's where she hid Combatra. Now this did lead to an 11-year-old boy playing in this construction site and, oops, finding Combatra and getting it taken inside and going on a joyride. So what kind of security measures you have? Like they really gave Genji a tough time. Okay. And then it goes even further where at the end, raiding that robot gets destroyed. Vanguard Ace gets destroyed. The only robot that's left pretty much is Combatra, and they all go in Combatra to fight off the evil one who's summoned a giant spaceship, giant robot is about to transform. It was like their version of Omnicron. Yeah, right. From
Yep.
Transformers. Or Unicron. I'm saying Omnicron.
Unicron, you
Unicron.
meant.
Yeah, Unicron. So comes over and they got to deal that, but they don't know how to fight this. They figure we got to find someone to help us fight it. So they all get in Combatra They fly over, they're not too far away, but to New York and land on top of the Baxter building to get the attention of the Fantastic Four. And that's where they crisscross and they team up with the Fantastic Four. That's the only time they've teamed up with anybody in the Marvel universe. No Spider-Man, no Avengers, no fighting Godzilla, um, no Tony Stark, right?
Mhm.
Like this would be up Tony Stark's kind of thing. Not even Stingray. Okay. Yeah, and I don't mean Stingray, the 3D animated cartoon. Sorry, the puppeteer cartoon. I'm talking Stingray, the hero, who had a version of the armor that he got from Tony Stark, but he used it underwater. Like, not anyone that would make. Okay, so they get there, and of course they got that the last issue was going to be issue 20, so they had to really rush it to wrap up storyline, which they did. But then after that, you see them fly off with Combatra, three Shogun Warriors. They come back to Earth, and we never hear from any of the pilots ever again. We don't know whatever happened to Combatra. We don't know whatever happened to the remains of Radine and Dangard Ace. Usually, you would hear something like Damage Control would go in there, or maybe even Shield would go in there and try to recover those. Nothing, nothing. And that's the last we hear of the Shogun Warriors. It's almost like they never existed. And because due to licensing laws, we never even got a trade paperback of this IP. Ouch. Yeah. Ouch. Ouch. Potential. Meat on the bone. And don't take me wrong. I'm a fan. I'm disappointed because I wanted more. I'm a fan of the Shogun Warriors. This brings back great memories, even to the point that we talked about Grandizer in one of our earlier episodes, and now Grandizer has a video game out on Xbox. Yay. I'm not even being sarcastic. I'm all in for that. So, Ron, any other notes before we get into this fan cast of this IP?
Major notes. I mean, the characters has, like you said, has some meat on the bone, but they have. To me, it's a good segue, and that's where I'm going to say when we start talking a little bit more about casting. To me, there's missed opportunities. They could be a beautiful bridge to intervene, not intervene, just to introduce robots, warrior type robots, building size, Godzilla size, into a realism. Because again, all this could have been in an ultra universe kind of scenario. But once you now start intertwining Shield, the Baxter Building, Fantastic Four, it gives a more realism to it. So yeah, I just feel it's a missed opportunity. But like you said, fortunately, due to sales, they were only able to make 20 issues. So that's basically by month, just under 2 years. Yeah. That's just like about a year and a half plus of issues that they produced.
Yeah, a year and 8 months.
They didn't get footing afterwards, unfortunately. They didn't get good footing in the beginning. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah. 8 months. 8 months. That's all we got was a year and 8 months.
A year and 8 months. Yeah.
8 months. Right? That's what we got for the Shogun Warriors. And I think it had a lot more potential. So we'll talk about that. So let's get down to the fun of it. Here's our show. Our whole show is all about fan casting.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna fan cast it. Of course, we're gonna fan cast it. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the Shogun Warriors, and I was just disappointed I didn't get more of them, and never saw it come back. So, Ron, I'm gonna kick off with you, man. What's your casting? How would you like to see this property, this IP, adapted?
So, as I was kind of leaning in, just saying that because they had the ability to intertwine with the Fantastic Four Baxter Building in that regard, it gave you that realism. I would actually like to see it actually live. I would like to see it live. My mind is trying to debate if I want actually a straight one movie or if I wanted like a series. But I think I want a movie because I want to at least give the audience a chance to see it and let it stew in the back of their minds. Because this is something that you're not going to see that often. They're not to say as the equivalents of the Avengers, but at least you can always see the Avengers, Spider-Man, and so forth. You can see them more frequently. These guys, they have their own deposition of what they're there for. They're there for the higher element. Maybe not the Thanos kind of way, but I mean
Mhm.
something that's big and large, Godzilla type of scenario, which doesn't happen that often per se. So there's enough meat for me to have at least one or two movies in a sense that
Okay.
you got a movie, and then you'll say the second one. Now you're realizing the followers of darkness, they now basically retreating to off world to get more reinforcements. And that can be, you know, the second movie. But I would like to actually see it live. So you actually have the ability of having full, large robots out in the streets because we're now already accustomed to Godzilla. And like we said,
Yes. Yes.
very physically, not cartoon, not that type of vibe. Physical movies of seeing Godzilla up to date, running around the city, and people are like, "Yeah, we can accept that." So if you can accept Godzilla, we can accept, large, monstrous robots running around, wrecking havoc, and causing pure destruction, and damage control is getting extra money because woohoo, you got more stuff to clean up. Yay! So with that entail, I would like to have these three actors. I would like to have Jamie Bell to
Mhm.
play Carson. I
Okay.
would like Rila. Oh, you know what? Let me stop right there. So Jamie Bell. Jamie Bell, we know Jamie from a couple of stuff. Now, I was seeing him from Jumper, uh, but here's a connection that I wanted to bring in the Fantastic Four. So when they did the Fantastic Four remake or
Yeah.
the recent installment, he was playing Ben Grimm, who was
Oh, okay.
acting the same.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. All right.
So because he has that rough, because again in the movie he was that rough type of guy, you know, not sarcastic, but he was just a little, he's a little rough. But that's Johnny Storm. So I can see Jamie Bell taking that character and having fun with it. I would then like to have for um, Gina. I would like to have Rila Fuku, Fuku, Fuku. Sorry, let me say this right. Apologies.
Mhm.
Fukushima. Rila Fukushima. You know her from playing Yoki in the Wolverine. She's also played
Oh,
in
okay.
Ghost in the Shell, Arrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, in at least if we go back to Wolverine, she is the one who was helping up when he was in Japan, who was his sidekick that we knew from the books.
Hmm.
So definitely want like to have her there. I wanted to at least say, let me have each individual who can basically represent each culture as best as possible. And I definitely say, you know what, I would like to have a Japanese actress. And then I just remember, wait, Wolverine. Let's go for Rila. All right. Now, at least now I want to say, yes, Jamie has a name, Rila has a name, but definitely for a Longo, I would like to have John Boyega as
Oh, yeah. There's a Longo.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Right. Star Wars. Right. We know.
yes,
Yeah.
from
He's done
Star
other
Wars,
projects
yeah,
by
Star
before.
Wars,
Yeah. Finn in Star
yep.
Wars. Okay.
Pacific
Touche,
Rim,
sir.
yes, yes. Attack on the Block. So he has some grit. He has some grit, especially like after Attack on the Block.
Oh, yeah.
Earlier days, but definitely, someone who just, you don't mess with. He will throw back the attitude back at you without a care in the world type of scenario. Pacific Rim, the same thing. So
Mhm.
yeah, so those are my three candidates, my three picks to play the leads in Shogun Warriors. And again, I want it to be a live two movies. We can probably
Okay.
pull up a third, but at
Yeah.
least get two movies. And then the scenario my mind was thinking, if we go to uh Word of Mercy, which was the movie that just had um I can see the scene. The last scene is basically introducing. Yeah, sorry. Yes. So the last bound Transformers. Hey, I was right. I was thinking Transformers. So the last Transformer, Beast Wars, at the
Yes.
very, very end, when basically when that guy got the opportunity to join an elite team. Hey, you got some great skills in your army, your military background. Now, why don't you come work for us? G.I. Joe. because of that type of connection. I want to be able to bridge worlds. So because of that type of bridging world right there, I can see the bridging world between, since it's a Marvel property, bridging through, 616, you know,
Well done, sir.
put them on a retainer,
Well
put them on
done.
a retainer, have them on a retainer. Nick Fury had them on a retainer. That certain things they're realizing, the Avengers can handle it, but this is Godzilla.
Thank you.
Shogun Warriors. Tag in. And that's it.
Even
So my
even
third
even
movie
with
would
the
probably try to
catchphrase tag in.
tag in.
What?
Tag in.
What?
So that's how I would look like having, especially the first movie would be origin. Second movie would now basically the evil forces are just, fighting back with their tails between their legs because they got beat in the first one. They're trying to figure out another way of, doing that. Then let's say for some wonderful reason they awaken or disturb Godzilla or something like that. A real world planet, another world planet, you know, trauma that basically saying now the third movie, hey, we're in New York. We're in this real world type of scenario. We're in Japan. We're all over basically. Let's put in a couple of shots of Avengers and pull them in. Should we
Yep.
intertwine it and just let them everybody know? Oh yeah, this is real. It's about to go down.
Okay.
This
All right. I like that. I like where you're going, and I see what you're saying. So I got your vision and all that, and I agree with it. I mean that's really yeah. It would be a lot of fire. That would be a lot of fire, and I mean that in a great way.
mm-hmm.
So my fan casting. So first of all, how I would adapt this, I would go fully animation. That's the way I'm feeling about this one. I would do this as a limited series. So what I mean is like a couple of episodes. That's season one. A couple episodes, season two. A couple episodes, season three. Wrap it up. We're good. That's how I would go about this. So if you watch Netflix, Godzilla on Netflix, Pacific Rim, Black, I
Yeah,
think it is on Netflix. That same company, I would get that same animation company to turn around
nice.
and start doing the Shogun Warriors, especially that they've already covered Godzilla with their own storyline. I would
Mm-hmm.
turn around and bring that and let them kind of bring it in and see if they can tie it all together. So that's where I'm going with. I like that animation style. They do it well. Yeah, it did. A lot of people watched it, and other people are like, oh, okay. But yeah, so if you watch the Netflix cartoon of Godzilla, you'll see what I'm talking about. So first and foremost, that's who I'm going with style wise. Now, of course, with this IP, if you want to be successful and you want to capitalize it on as much as possible, you got to do a couple of things. One, give me that series. Like, I mean, it's like 4 episodes, that's season one. Maybe 4 to 6 episodes, that's season one. Following year, do the same thing. It all ties together. Thank you. Let's take the elements from the comic book where the three of them get together with Raideen, Vanguard Ace, Combatra. Let's keep it that way. Shogun Warriors, Marvel. We're good.
Mm-hmm.
With that, I want them. They have to absolutely deal with Godzilla at one point.
This is
They
this
have
is what I'm
to.
saying.
They have to.
This
You
is what I'm
have to
saying.
turn around. Exactly. You've got to turn around and get the rights. Either Mattel has to get the rights back from the company and bring back in the toy figures. Have the toy figures to situate the sales for this and keep the excitement going, especially with the die-cast metal ones, make collector ones. Come on now. These things are all out there, but they don't get the big push like they do here in North America, in my opinion. Right?
Mhm.
Who's going to get the Grandizer video game? This guy. But, and there's other people too that are getting it. But I think it's going to be more of a push overseas than it is on North American soils because we're missing some of that giant robot stuff. All their stuff is Power Rangers. So that being said, is for Genji as the voice actress, I would go with, and her name is Maria. So Mariya, Isa. She's a voice actress. She's worked on many IPs over the years, playing different characters, voices for a ton of anime stuff. So she would be my voice for Gen G,
Okay.
right? So that's first and foremost there. For Alongo, I would go with one of the voice actors that does Total Drama Island, and his name is Clyde Bennett. So he plays the chief, a chef. Sorry, he plays Chef
Jeff.
Hatchet. So that's what I'm going with Alongo. No question about it. I think that this person would definitely sell it for sure. And because I like dude's name, I'm gonna go with Carter Hayden, right? And he plays Noah. So I'm gonna go with Carter Hayden to play Carson. And those are the three voice actors that I would have to go with that. Now, with the first thing, I want to kind of really keep it to the origin of it.
Mm.
So I do want them to deal with Genji's disappearance, her dealing with the military,
Oh, you have to.
plane going. You got to deal with that, and they got to write somewhere where it comes out safe than her being accused of being a spy and on the run. Or maybe they do just really solidify that and let her go through that. They've got their own aspects of what they can all bring. It's not just a stuntman to be a stuntman. He's got other things to deal with. Alongo's got things to deal with. So that I think is good. It's got some good conflict in there that would add to the writing. Here's where I would say. So first part of the series, right, is dealing with their origin, the followers of the dark, lords of light, the alien connection, the history. Let's go with it. Shogun Warriors get into fight some of their classic monsters that they did in the original series, their own individual series. Series 2, let's follow up more with Genji being persecuted by the Japanese government and what's happening there. And now let's bring in Godzilla, right? Godzilla gets under control by the followers of the dark, and they have to fight Godzilla. Maybe they're outnumbered. And then you can also have Shield pop in, or not even Shield, just Jimmy Woo with his organization, and they bring in Red Ronin.
Mm.
Right? That'd be a nice tie-in to have those two in there. And then, of course, the last part of that story, let's really flesh out the whole thing of they have to go in outer space. The robots get destroyed. What happens to them next? Do they just walk away from their lives? They just shared an experience. I really think this can go somewhere. But once again, you got to tie it in with some merch. Tie it in, bring back the toys.
Right.
T-shirts are easy, but bring back the toys. There's a lot of people our age
Oh, for sure.
that would turn around and buy those as collectors, model kits, right? Video games. Reintroduce it to the younger generation that, hey, giant robots are not just Power Rangers. This was pre-Power Rangers for us in North America before.
Right. Right.
This is where we're missing it. We can do it, And once again, you got that Disney money. So Disney can reach out and really open up that genre. Now, and not to take away from your idea, but you could still incorporate that into a live series because look, right now, Apple TV is doing Monarch, which is a Godzilla series. There's going to be another Godzilla King Kong movie. Who says if you do it right, the Shogun Warriors could make a guest appearance in there? Okay. That's my 2 cents on that. That I think, I'm passionate about this because come on, everyone knows it's cowboys and Indians back in the day. That's what kids used to play. And then the whole science fiction thing hit and it's lightsabers and giant robots and thunder lizards. This is so cool that, that's what Godzilla was called, the thunder lizard. Giant robots. Why not? Everyone likes a giant robot because if they didn't, Power Rangers would not be going today. It has a couple of things that everyone likes. Martial arts, 100%. Giant robots. Okay, so now we get more into the backstories of marine biologists. So, okay, it's got that educational piece to it. Being a stuntman. All right, it's educational and action. Being a fighter pilot. Oh, man. The sequences you can have with Genji. Out of the 3, she's like my favorite because she's got the most story to tell.
You see, I like what you're saying. Because here's another way, not another way, but an add-on to all that. Because I was going to bring this up before and I did forget, and thank God I remembered. Yeah. So 2 things. I'll go for one. For the one thing, I wanted to bring up. Let's work on the story in regards to why were they selected? Were there any others? Because here's a scenario. If you're going to say that these 3 are the descendants, because that's the main story, the part of the story is that these 3 are the descendants of the followers of light from back in the days. Great. But in reality, if we go from back in the days, that means DNA has been transferred to these guys. Now, to me, there would have to be more people. So something had to distinguish them over the others. You should be making a list like saying, these are the 30 remaining descendants. These 3 are the 3 that has the most potential, has the most amount of DNA closest to be able to operate with the machine. Because you got to make it understand that they don't really get into too tough to my recollection. Huh? They never, right? Do. Okay, so I couldn't remember. So here's the scenario. We got to make it understand that these robots have been, quote unquote, standing in the parking lot, just waiting for the right person to come and activate them. Because then it gives me the idea of basically, because again, this storyline is predating Stargate. Because if you realize in the show Stargate, a little bit into it, they start to say that Richard Dean Anderson and Jack O'Neill has an ancient gene that gave him the ability to activate certain hardware. So he would basically has to touch it. Like certain people just work. It was just like, these are all equipment that's here from the agents all this time, whatever the case would be. What just happened? I just touched it. Can you touch it again? Oh. Then they start to find out certain people had a certain gene. Mm-hmm. They're able to activate it and use these weapons and everything along that line. So let's pull that story, because that's basically what this is. This is about having these individuals who have a certain way of activating and using it. Because if not, let's go back to that security statement you said about the kid who took one of them for a ride. Unless you're telling me this kid is actually, he's a sleeper cell and he has the ancient gene in him, we don't know.
No, we don't.
But the fact is, you're basically saying that there's a reason why we had to choose these three. I now would like to throw a monkey wrench into what it is. Let's go back again to what I'm saying. That what if these guys were the top of the top? You just happened to be, you had 58%, you had 60, you had 59% kind of scenario, like, and everybody else is like 30 and 40. So we got to go with you because you guys are the most top, ranking, individual who will be able to operate these machines. What if one of them wasn't a good person?
Yes.
One of them wasn't a good person. So I'm now digging into what you said earlier, which is an actual fact. They didn't go into it, but they thought Gingy was a spy. What if she really was a spy? Just not because of her gene, but she actually was an actual agent who was trying to infiltrate and basically snap. They nearly caught me. I'm really trying to get in clean. These guys, I'm getting too much are on me. But by her now realizing I have this special ability, maybe I can reform my life and help and actually have some good and basically save the world and, reform in her ways. And then, towards the end, all right, I give up the mantle. I won't let the government know that I was actually a spy because they will take me out. But just out of the two of you guys, and we won't tell the professor, out of the two of you guys, I really was. I'm much better now. I've seen the light.
The light. Yes. Yes.
And I'm now come and cleanse my ways of my wicked ways, and I'm now being a proper person. And there you go. Because it would have been extra gangster. Yeah, you did it. And now if we go to your way, because I don't know if we can do this in the movie, because it'll take too long. But if we did to your series, you actually have her that she was actually kidnapped, taken to the followers of the dark. They don't know they just know you have a gene because, as Barry said earlier, the followers of darkness, followers of dark, they were more sorcery bent than science.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially like Barry said, their Cobra commander was basically trying to follow the old ways of going sorcery. Sorry, let me retract. Cobra Commander. So basically, Megatron was all about the sorcery, and then you have his second lieutenant, Starscream, who just kept saying, "This bumbling idiot, I'm telling you, we need to go and get the science." And it's the reverse. The leader was saying, you know what? The old ways is too old. These guys are beating us because of science. I'm gonna have to look into the science world. It's Starscream saying, we gotta stick to the old ways and do sorcery.
You're right, man.
At every corner he undermines him. So now he kidnaps Gingy and brings her in and realizing we're gonna follow what the enemy, aka what you and the professor are doing, and having these science machines, these robots, but we can't operate them. But we're gonna take the formula and build it up. So wait a minute, what if we bring you? We realize you are actually, you're not one of our descendants, but you got a very darkened heart. Come to the dark side.
Oh
And then
my
see
gosh.
her. But she'll never sway over, but she gets tempted and
Yes.
and that kind of scenario. But then she comes back and be a good old girl. And she's like, okay, forget it. I realize evil is not the way. I've seen the light and I'm
Right.
now. And then basically, and then you just hear the, Thundercats kind of looking up, tag in. And then they tag in and they're good to go.
Well done. See, that would make more than the comic right now. Marvel. You saw Disney.
That was all off the dome,
Rod
people. That was all off the dome. That was all off the dome.
All off the
You'll
dome.
make it
You'll
like-
rod some money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, make it
I'll
like
even add
Hannibal,
this on top of that, man. I'll say this. So maybe why those three? Well, to your point, maybe they have the DNA, but keep in mind, let's look at their physical attributes. They're all
100%.
physically fit people, right? To be a deep sea diver, you have to be in shape. To be a jet fighter pilot, you got to be in shape.
100%.
And to be a stuntman, you got to be in shape.
100%.
Okay. So maybe they had someone else that they said, hey, well, this person would have been a better pilot. What's he doing? Oh, wait a minute. He's just working. Okay. He's not in shape. He would have to go to the gym for a year to get used to the rigors of, right. So that could have been also that, right? Because it's physical and mental conditioning. It's amazing.
100%. Listen, I'll even say that I thought this also as well when you're talking about Gingy and her pilot abilities. Yeah. The best thing that they can do is definitely have, again, every machine has its great attribute, and we're going to see the best of it. You're going to see someone who's going to be able to outfly the other robots. She will be able to outmaneuver, because they know I will take point, I will draw their attention away while you catch them on the flyby. Then anything underwater, you're basically saying this guy is now basically, Longo is like Aquaman. And have the ability to traverse across the great, blue yonder and the seven seas. And then you have Carson, who's basically saying, listen, I'm tactical. Right. I'm tactical. I'm on the ground. I'm a stuntman. I know how to make my machine go. Yeah. So these are other ways you can start to pull the best qualities of each individual and make sure the machine is going to be attributed to them. Again, it's just looking like Voltron in the sense when you say that Voltron, every individual was the best thing for their lions. Yes. This is exactly the same way. That's all it is. That's all.
On behalf of Rod, mic drop. Wow. That's amazing. Like that's that. Okay. All right. Well, there's nothing else for me to say on that one, but thank you everyone for tuning into the iConis podcast. Rod has nailed it on this one. Absolutely. Marvel, you owe him some money. Disney, you owe him some money. Whoever takes this IP and wants to do something, you need to listen to this man's idea.
Fly us out.
Owe him some money.
Just fly us out. Just come by, fly us out. We'll have some conversations.
We want merch.
Yeah. I want merch, but I want some percentage. But come, let's put us on the writers.
And merch.
Yeah, the merch come out. Wow. Put us a percentage. We're on the writing team. We'll write some stories. We'll add some, add a little different flair.
Okay. Done. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Man, as I said, like, subscribe, and share, rate, and review. This has been the iConis podcast, and the icon is on the iConis podcast, Shogun Warriors. Shogun Warriors. Gotta love it. On behalf of myself, I am Barry 3D. On my side, as always, is the one and only
Rod C. Let's go.
And remember, this whole world was started with a pencil, a piece of paper, and lots of imagination. Keep on dreaming. Tag me out.
No, I can't do it in this chair. No, that was Grand RZ. Just